This is the story of how David Bowie became a painter and started collecting art in the mid-70s. When David Bowie died in 2016, he was known as one of the most iconic musicians to have ever lived. However, in the mid-70s, David Bowie was a burnt-out rock star living in Los Angeles with a severe cocaine addiction on the brink of madness. The last album he recorded there was Station to Station, and although it was well received, he explained in an interview, "I have no memory of making that album. I mean, I know I did because I read about it later on." In the spring of 1976, he and Iggy Pop, who was also suffering from the side effects of rock and roll stardom and in a rehab clinic for heroin addiction, left for Berlin. Berlin gave him access to a new life and new inspirations. Bowie had an affinity for German expressionist art which far predated his residence in Berlin, and when he lived there he began to paint and executed a great number of lithographs and many portraits. He and Iggy Pop lived in a 7-room flat on the first floor of a rundown old building in the former West Berlin from 1976 to 1978, and Bowie set up his painting studio there. He painted Iggy Pop many times. This painting, called J.O., which stands for James Osterberg, the real name of Iggy Pop. His brushwork is very expressive, and he made use of bold colours. The rough impasto technique allows us to see the individual brushstrokes that he used. The subjects of his paintings were always close to him, like a set of stairs on the ground floor of the Berlin apartment he shared with Iggy Pop. He used this location to paint Child in Berlin. The lighter side of this painting is that there was in fact a dental practice on the 3rd floor of the apartment that they were living in. The boy doesn't look very happy. He might be about to have a tooth pulled.
What happened?
Bowie didn't have great ambitions for his painting. I mean, he had enough going on in the music world. It was a private thing and was about problem solving. Whenever he encountered a creative obstacle in the music he was working on, he would revert to drawing and painting. You can see that, for example, in his painting Turkish Father and Son, a canvas that he made while writing the song Yasassin for his album Lodger. The melody has a strong Turkish flavour, and the title is Turkish for long life. Their flat was near the Turkish Quarter in Berlin. It wasn't until 1995 that he used a self-portrait on the cover of his album Outside. That same year he took a trip to South Africa with Iman, his second wife. He was struck by a story that revealed an ancient belief of the local people he visited. Apparently, when the local tribes first came into contact with white people, they presumed that they were being visited by their ancestors. In their mythology, these ancestors appear in a ghost-like white form. This story inspired Bowie to paint his series of Ancestors. He still used expressive styles of painting, this time combined with African elements such as animal skin patterns. And from this, he had his first solo exhibition, titled New Afro Pagan, at the Gallery in London. A year later, he had another exhibition in Basel, Switzerland. But what about his art collection? Bowie once said, "Art was seriously the only thing I'd ever wanted to own. It has always been for me a staple nourishment. I use it. It can change the way I feel in the mornings." His favourite painting in his collection was Head of Garde Bohème by Frank Auerbach. He had several Jean-Michel Basquiat paintings in his collection, including Air Power and Untitled from 1984, and he knew the artist from his New York connections in the 80s. He even starred as Andy Warhol in the biopic directed by Julian Schnabel. His collection included 2 Damien Hirst spin paintings, a David Bomberg, a Marcel Duchamp, outsider artists, a Peter Howson, an Egon Schiele, and even a Tintoretto, and many more wide-ranging artists that he collected throughout his life. His collection is bohemian, romantic, expressive, emotional art. He was a true collector. and was not motivated commercially. He cared truly about the art.